What's up, everybody? This is Dan Thompson from AroundTheAssociation.com, and this is the Where Do They Go From Here edition, starring today the Orlando Magic. The Magic went ahead and hired their fifth head coach in the last 7 years today by hiring former Charlotte headman and former Magic assistant Steve Clifford to be their head coach going forward. And now the Magic have an idea of and the fans have an idea of what is going to happen over the next up to teen time. The contract for Clifford is a 4-year deal, which is kind of ironic because Jeff Weltman and the entire front office has a 4-year contract going on as well too. So let's just say the Magic have now married the guy they're going to be with for the next 4 years in this point in time. Now, the Magic, for those who haven't been paying attention to the Magic, which most of the country hasn't, the Magic have been a revolving door of head coaches since the days of Stan Van Gundy and Otis Smith walking themselves out the door, Rob Hennigan taking over. Rob Hennigan went through Jacques Vaughn, James Borrego, who's now the head coach in Charlotte, replacing Steve Clifford. They went through Scott Skiles and now Frank Vogel. Jeff Weltman went one season with Vogel before moving him for the opportunity to get Clifford. Now, it's not been a situation with the coaches. It's been a situation with the roster the last couple of years. Most coaches couldn't even coach this roster. That's right now. There's nothing against the guys in the team because they're very, very good guys, but it's a poorly constructed roster. And the roster had issues and flaws due to not good drafting, personnel decisions about involving trading players and getting rid of players that they tried to bring through the system, and also bad free agent signings at the same time, putting the Magic in a cap situation that's not exactly the most desirable across the league. And now Steve Clifford's job is to somehow maneuver this roster back to the playoffs. It's the first time since Stan Van Gundy and Dwight Howard were here back in 2009. The Magic have not been very successful in the interim. Like I said, the number of coaches and players that have been exiled in this franchise has not been good. Like I said, the Magic last time they were in the finals was 2009, and last time they were in the playoffs, Dwight Howard was here, I think, back in 2012. I think it was the last time the Magic were in the playoffs. So before we talk about the NBA draft and what Steve Clifford can do with this roster as far as the draft goes, let's look what's on the roster right now. The Magic right now are a hodgepodge of players and guys that don't really know or have a role that is not conducive to how good they're supposed to be. Evan Fournier is the team's top scorer, and in most teams he'd be a second or a third option. Fournier was given the money of $80 million contract when he re-signed with Orlando 2 years ago. And even though Fournier does have his moments where he scores the basketball and he's the team's best shot creator, he's not a 25-point game scorer, which the Magic need from someone they're paying that type of money. Nikola Vucevic is one of the better double-double guys in the entire league, but the problem is Vucevic's defense has not matched the offensive output, and to be honest with you, a lot of Vucevic's rebounds have been kind of empty over the last 2 years because the Magic have missed a ton of shots because they struggle to score offensively. Now, also, the point guard situation has been an issue. Elfrid Payton was the guy that Rob Hennigan chose to lead this team. Unfortunately, Payton had never developed. Payton was then shipped for a second-round pick. Magic fans were upset that they got a second-round pick thinking they could get a first-round pick. As Phoenix realized, Elfrid Payton was not that good of a point guard. Nothing against Elfrid, he's a great guy, but the problem is he's never really developed into anything more than what he is. A guy that gets numbers and volume, but really his impact on the court has not been as it was as a rookie, and he's been basically degressing every single year since he's been in the league. And now he's a free agent at this point. The Magic probably could get him if they want to bring him back, but at this point, I don't think Jeff Weltman's going to try to bring him back. They finished here with DJ Augustin and shelved Mack at point guard. Actually had some of their better moments with those two as the duo in at the point guard position. Jonathan Simmons played a lot of the two guard this year. Mack had some good moments scoring the basketball. His defense has always been there, but the problem is health for Simmons and really an increased scoring role. He still is developing how to be a scorer in the NBA. His main claim and how good and his real value is on the defensive side of the ball because he is the best hard-nosed defender they have on the wing. Still learning how to score, and I think he'll be much more comfortable in Season 2 as he's taking on a bigger role in the offense as he's getting adjusted to learning how to be a scorer in this league. It's different scoring in lower levels of basketball, and even the G League is different than being a main scorer for a team. I think he's going to become a better scorer at it. This first year, it's a bit of an adjustment. Terrence Ross missed the majority of the season due to injury, and we all know what Terrence Ross brings you. He's a good corner shooter, good corner shooter from the three-point line, and he also can provide some kind of scoring. Problem is, he's also a very valuable defender. But for the Magic, this past season, it was injuries that kept him off the floor. Aaron Gordon is the guy that everybody is questioning themselves going forward. Gordon is a guy who is a free agent on July 1. Aaron Gordon says he wants the max. That's the next question Jeff Weltman has to answer, is the Aaron Gordon question. The same question Rob Hennigan answered a couple years ago with Victor Oladipo. Instead of giving him the extension, he shipped him for Serge Ibaka, who he shipped mid-season for Terrence Ross. So for those scoring at home, So they acquired Terrence Ross and a pick they traded, a first-round pick, which they ended up trading for losing Victor Oladipo, Serge Ibaka, Sabonis, among other players in those deals. Now, mind you, like I said, the Magic / front office didn't do exactly the most effective moves. They traded future draft picks and also traded guys that they were developing, Tobias Harris. They also traded veterans like Channing Frye. They also they acquired Brandon Jennings, which they let him go, acquired Ursula Sova and let him go at the same time. So, like I said, it's been a revolving door of players. Now, as far as what the future holds for the Magic has some pretty good young players. Kim Birch and Weston Wandu will be pretty solid as role players going forward. Birch is really a very, very intriguing player, brings a lot of high energy, reminds you a lot of Bismack Biyombo. The problem is Bismack Biyombo is on this roster as well, too, and Kim Birch makes about, I think, 20 times less than Bismack Biyombo, if not less, even a bigger number than that. Biyombo is one of the poster childs for the situation that the Magic are in with the salary cap. Biyombo is in a contract that the Magic cannot move without basically giving up future first-round picks for a team to take on Biyombo in that contract, which is over $18 million a year. I don't think Jeff Weltman's going to move that one until the last year of that contract. The building block with his team going forward is Jonathan Isaac. Now, the Magic fans are kind of divided down the middle about how to feel about Jonathan Isaac, but in my opinion, and being around Jonathan for the time I've been around him, Isaac has every potential to be a star because he does one thing very well that most of the NBA doesn't do. He plays defense. He's very long. He's very versatile, which is kind of the same things that Jeff Weltman and that front office likes to have. John Hammond and Jeff Weltman, because Hammond and Milwaukee had Giannis. He had Giannis. He had Don Maker. He drafted John Henson. He drafted Chris Middleton. He traded for Chris Middleton. He likes guys with length, that guys with long limbs that can basically play different positions. And Jonathan Isaac can do that. He's going to play some of the 3 and the 4. For those thinking he can play the 5, you must remember Jonathan Isaac's barely 220 pounds. I don't care in any type of situation. Jonathan Isaac should not be playing anywhere near center. Just a little food for thought. But Isaac is going to be a top-notch, high-level defender in year number 2. And the most important thing for people realizing about the NBA is that a young kid's most important year is between years 1 and 2. Because that developmental year, after getting your body used to everything, is going to be the most important thing. We should see Jonathan at Summer League this year in in Vegas this year, because it's not in Orlando. We see him in Vegas. And I think he should play a huge role in the Magic's Summer League team this year, along with whoever they draft for the draft. Speaking of what's going on with the draft, now the Magic are picking 6th. Now the funny thing is they won the last regular season game, which gave them the one extra ping pong balls to keep them in front of the Kings. The Kings ended up moving up into the top 2, while the Magic are picking 6. Now with the Steve Clifford hire, you have an idea what the Magic can possibly do. What Steve Clifford brings to this team, I know people are complaining about, he didn't win in Charlotte. He had a losing record in Charlotte. He made the playoffs 2 out of 5 years. But people forget, Charlotte was injured a lot of the time during Clifford's time in Charlotte. Remember, there was the stretch, I think 2 years ago, when Cody Zeller got hurt and missed 20 games. The Hornets went 3-17 in a key stretch of the season. This team has dealt with injuries with Michael Kidd-Gilchrist. Don't forget the year he had the shoulder injury. He re-injured it in Orlando in a game against the Magic. Their best defender ends up getting hurt and misses a ton of almost the entire season. They've had injuries to Nicholas Batum. They've had injuries to Jeremy Lamb. They've had injuries all across the board. And that's what's led to what Charlotte comes to miss in the playoffs. Now, mind you, Hornets fans will say a lot of times it was the fact of bad clock management down the stretch. And Steve, he had his health issues earlier on in the season and missed some time to get his health together. But what Steve Clifford is a very, very good teacher. Remember, he turned Kemba Walker into an all-star. He made Nicholas Batum a max player. He also made guys like Marvin Williams had a career season a couple years ago. Cody Zeller turned into a solid big man. And even though Malik Monk didn't develop, you can't blame that on Clifford because Malik Monk came in the league and didn't learn how to play defense in the 1 year at Kentucky. That becomes an issue across the board. What he can bring with this draft class this year is that now you have an idea of where he can go in the draft. There's 2 options. He likes big guys who can develop, because look what he did with Dwight Howard. Now, everybody knows and very familiar when Steve was here with Stan, he helped develop Dwight Howard into what the monster Dwight Howard was in Orlando. Now, there could be some Dwight reunion down here. And remember, Howard had his best season in years last year in Charlotte. It was really a borderline all-star last year in some cases. He likes big guys, and he knows how to develop big guys. So what are you looking at in the draft? You look at Wendell Carter more than you look at Mohamed Bamba. Bamba is a defensive shot-blocking presence that the Magic haven't had in years, but the thing is, Carter can block shots. He also can rebound, and most importantly, he has range out to the three-point line and can score the basketball. If Clifford, if available, he would be a nice fit at 6 now, because now you have an idea, because Clifford can develop Wendell Carter into a very solid big man that you could put next to Jonathan Isaac and potentially re-signing Aaron Gordon. Or they go the other direction. The other direction is Trae Young. Now, because you look at Steve Clifford and what he's done successful is the fact that he turned Kemba Walker into an all-star. Before we announce that Trae Young is the next coming of Stephen Curry, if Trae Young becomes Kemba Walker, I'm okay with that. Kemba Walker is an all-star. He's a big-time scorer, is a playmaker, and guess what? He runs the pick and roll very effectively, which guess what? Steve Clifford loves to do. Look how many pick and roll situations he had with Dwight Howard last year in Charlotte, or even the time he had Al Jefferson and Kemba Walker out there. So he knows how to run the pick and roll effectively, and he's a very good teacher. So before Magic fans decide to jump over a bridge and start throwing things at Jeff Weltman, remember, Jeff Weltman built the Toronto Raptors. Yes, it wasn't, I'm going to say it wasn't the first choice for the best head coach. Yes. Jeff admitted today in the press conference, admitted to ESPN 580 out here in Orlando today, that they interviewed way more candidates than we all know. Now, the ones that we all know, we definitely know of 5, which was David Vanderpool, Ime Udoka, there was David Fitzdale, there was Kelvin Sampson, and, of course, Steve Clifford. Now, the question was number 6 was Jerry Stackhouse, and, you have to go with who you believe on that one, whether it be, the Sirius XM source, or you believe Josh Robbins of the Orlando Sentinel. But Jeff Weltman said there were more candidates interviewed. It took the Magic 6 weeks. I understand it was not exactly the easiest 6 weeks, and definitely seeing candidates go down the door and not, and guys being passed for jobs. But let's be realistic here. The top flight head coaches were not coming here. So Dwayne Casey, even Van Gundy would let go, was not going to come back here. Doc Rivers wasn't coming back here. Even Jay Wright, if Jay Wright was a guy, or Tom Izzo was even pursued for college, would not come here. Let's just be honest. It's been a revolving door. So why any of those coaches are come into a situation knowing they're not going to win immediately, and knowing the Magic have a history of firing coaches within less than 2 years? The Magic have come into a point now where they've become a revolving door of head coaches. So hopefully Steve Clifford can somehow bring some normalcy to the situation. As far as free agency goes, the Magic have about $17 million, about anywhere from 10 to 15, 16, $17 million in salary cap space. So really, the target should be who they do not take in the draft. If they decide to go with a point guard in the draft, like a Trae Young, maybe Colin Sexton, if Sexton can blow them away in interviews, I like Sexton a lot as well, too. If they go with Young or Sexton at the 6th spot, expect the Magic to try to find a dual threat at center. Nothing against Nikola Vucevic, but Vucevic does not play defense very well. He has best defensive season and is starting to learn how to move his feet better. The problem with him is that he's not going to be that defender, and Steve Clifford preaches defense. One thing about Steve Clifford's teams in Charlotte, they knew how to defend. Problem was they couldn't score. Magic problem, couldn't score. So if they went with Young or Sexton, I see them going for a big this summer and moving some pieces around. Now, if they decide to go with a Wendell Carter or a Mohamed Bamba, a guy they can look at is actually the point guard that could be the odd man out in Boston, which could be Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart would be a great fit here in Orlando. Smart, a guy they could have drafted a couple years ago. They passed on him. Smart would be actually an outstanding fit. He's a very long defender, one of the best defenders in the entire league. Still questionable with the shot selection, but the thing is he's an elite defender, and he also would fit the Steve Clifford system very well because he knows how to defend. Now, the sleeper as far as the draft class goes could be Michael Porter Jr. If Porter Jr. is available at 6, it presents a interesting scenario for the Magic. Because if Porter's on the board, you can take Michael Porter. You don't have to lock yourself into Aaron Gordon for a long-term, $20-something million a year contract, and you don't have to worry about him long-term. And then you can start the real rebuilding process. Now, there have been rumors that the Magic could potentially try to acquire a second first-round pick, but with the way this roster is shaped, I don't know what team would give up a first-round pick for anything on this roster, because remember, you cannot trade Aaron Gordon because he's a free agent. So anybody considering saying trade Aaron Gordon for somebody's lottery pick, it's not going to happen. Because guess what? Aaron Gordon has to sign a contract with Orlando, and nobody wants to sign a contract with a team knowing that he's going to be traded somewhere else that is not to the player's liking. So before we start the Aaron Gordon rumors being traded, it's not going to happen. The real question is, will Jeff Weltman pay Aaron Gordon that type of money? I think you have to. But really, you make that decision after the draft. Because if Michael Porter Jr. is available at 6, you take the best scorer of the draft. And you figure everything else out later. I have right now my mock draft, the Magic taking Porter. But with some changes being made, the next mock draft, I don't know whether it could be, like I said, to me, it's down to 3 guys. If Porter slides, he's one. I like Carter, and I like Trae Young. Bamba would be the emergency option if they know they're going to re-sign Aaron Gordon. But for the Magic and their fans, it's going to be, they're not making the playoffs this year. Unless they re-sign Aaron Gordon and he turns into an all-star, or whoever they draft and Isaac turn into all NBA type players, it's not going to be they're not going to be playing games after important games after Easter Sunday this year, or probably in the foreseeable future. I see this team back in the lottery as of right now, but like I said, we haven't even gotten to the draft, and we haven't gotten till free agency yet. And so we haven't had a chance to see what Jeff Weltman can do and what kind of ideas he has coming up. But the good news for the Magic fans is they have a stable coach. Yes, it's not the sexy hire. Yes, it's not the big name coach or the hot assistant. But remember, this is not about the hot and sexy trend. This is about putting a foundation together of basketball that's going to win. Steve Clifford can coach basketball. Now it's Jeff Weltman's job to get basketball players that's going to fit this system. The second they overhaul this roster, Magic fans, you're going to start seeing something better on the horizon for the Magic. So my question is, do you agree with me? Let me know your thoughts. Follow me on Twitter at NBADT29. Leave the comments down below. The podcast will be up in the next by 4:30 Eastern time. Like I said, I'm finishing this up so I can go ahead and post it everywhere. Follow the page at Around the Association, and also follow the website, which is AroundTheAssociation.com. So, my name is Danny Thompson for AroundTheAssociation.com and the Around the Association podcast. Oh, by the way, follow the podcast on iHeartRadio as well as Spreaker, because you're going to get the notifications knowing that the newest shows are out. You should have another podcast probably coming later on today where we talk about another team going forward in the NBA as they get their offseason. So for Around the Association, I'm Danny Thompson. See you guys later. Peace.